computer. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to go a little backwards. I know we're going to talk about the report and the red flags, what to go over with them, but I really want to talk about Ron right now. And I'm going to share my screen because we put together a flyer, and Ron kind of been really a big deal right now. It's a hot topic, like Stephanie said. And I'm going to share this screen here, this flyer that we put together. I hope you guys can all see it. Can you guys see it? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to bring it down. It's a little large. It's out there. If you're a sales rep, if you want it, this information, we can send it to you. Your TO can send it to you. Your sales rep can send it to you. But we did a lot of investigation and work with it because we thought Ron was really going to be influential or impact our business right now, especially with COVID-19 going around. It doesn't appear that way, honestly, that it's actually having that big of an impact after all. But I wanted to give you some general guidelines about Ron. So first and foremost, the lender has to approve the Ron transaction, even if the grant deed is from Ron, being signed with the remote online notary. So if the grant deed is signed, deed of trust to sign any document that's being signed, the lender has to approve it. For some unbeknownst reasons, some of the lenders, like Wells Fargo, are not approving it right now. I don't know whether lenders aren't, but we know right now Wells Fargo for certain. So that's a big thing. If the lender doesn't approve it, we can't do Ron, period. So the next thing we're finding out is that the person signing at Ron has to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. Okay, so that's another thing. If they are not either of those two, then Ron can't be utilized, and the notary should know that anyways and not accept that. So going back to some of the approvals, our underwriter is going to require that every party approve Ron. That's buyer, seller, the lender, because basically we want them to know that this is how it's being signed. And if there's an issue with it, they can't come back to us and say, oh, we didn't know this was going to be signed this way. You guys insured it this way, that type of thing. So that's one of the things. One of the lenders, sorry, I ended up doing that. One of the lenders, one of the underwriters does require actually an exception in their policy when they have Ron. So we'll talk about that later if it ever comes up. But in any event, Ron can't, yes.
Excuse me, your voice is a little garbled. If you can move just a little bit away from your computer.
Away. Okay, we'll make it away is easier. All right. So how's that? Does that sound better?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So one of the things, remote online notaries can't be done in the state of California. So notaries are not allowed to do that here. Department of Justice has not allowed that yet, but the recorders are accepting them from other states. So like Texas, Nevada, Virginia, those are states that are already approved to do Ron. And if they've done a Ron in those states, the county recorders here are accepting those kind of documents. So we kind of just went around and checked with some of the states nearest California, and we advised that Nevada, Texas, Utah, like I said, Virginia. We put Virginia in there because they have some broad powers. They can do out of country type notaries, so that's why we put them in there. We're still learning what they can do because we're understanding that some of it has to be. The notaries where they're taking that, doing that notary, they have to have a Hague Convention involved. So it'd have to be somewhere like Japan. It couldn't be in Canada. It couldn't be in Mexico. It had to be somewhere where the Hague Convention is approved. So some of the counties that locally have agreed to accept Ron are Los Angeles, San Diego, Orange County, Ventura, Riverside, San Bernardino, Santa Barbara. So virtually all the Southern California counties are accepting Ron at this point. But those again have to be from other states. They can't be from California because that's illegal here. The other thing is our underwriter is very adamant that they have to come from an approved vendor, and these are vendors that we're showing you here. 7 of them are approved by different underwriters, and the reason why is because of the securities involved in Ron. This thing is, I'm not sure if anybody's seen it, but I've seen an actual sample of the Ron Notary. If you ever go onto YouTube, they have it. And it's pretty intense. You can put your ID up against the camera, and basically it gives face recognition. And then you flip it around, it verifies that that's the ID that it goes with because it takes the barcode type thing. So it's very intense. And these vendors have these programs that do all these things. So these are the ones that are approved, various vendors that are approved by our underwriter. So just keep that in mind if that comes up, that we'll ask that question. Hey, are any of these vendors where it took place from? Okay. And I think I talked a little bit about Virginia having broad powers to do this outside of the United States. So you need to contact us if you do have a situation like that, because we need to verify first if they can do that, because the person has to be a U.S. citizen, and it has to be in a country where the Hague Convention exists. Okay, so I just wanted to go over Ron, just a little generalities. If you need this flyer just to have it, our TOs have it, our sales reps have it, and they can provide that to you. But if you get a Ron, if you have a transaction where Ron's going to be involved, contact us, and we'll walk you through the steps with it. Okay, to this point yet, California Title hasn't done one yet. In fact, I do know in Los Angeles County, one was done early May by Ticor Title, but that's the only one I've heard of at this point. So I'm not sure if anybody else has done one at this point, but I've only heard of one in LA with Ticor Title. Okay. So with that said, let's go on to the real important topic of prelims and the red flags. So let me get rid of this, stop share this one, and share a new screen. And this one is, I know it says how to read a prelim. This is what we use when we go out there. In fact, I got to update it a little bit, but as I'm going to bring down the screen a little bit because it's a little too large.
Hey, Bill.
I want to go over some of, yes.
You're a little bit garbled again. I don't know why. Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's, if it's the computer.
That's better.
Is that better? Okay.
That's better. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So maybe I backed up too far. Anyway, so so how to read a prelim, I know most of you guys already do, but there's some red flags that Stephanie and I were talking about that we kind of want to bring up to your attention, just so you guys have these in mind, so they don't come up at the last second, for you. Of course, obviously, our cover page, it's a prelim, and we're just telling you it's only a preliminary search, and there could be other things that show up within a search that we don't know about, like when we get a general index or, a site clear, or something records in between the prelim and our closing. Of course, we always talk about the contemplated policies. I know these lenders are crazy about that thing being there. And then,
hey, Bill.
Yes.
You're even more garbled now.
Now, really? How about now? Is that better?
That's good.
I keep getting closer. Let's see that. How's that? All right. Tell me if I did do it again. Just raise your thumb down or whatever. All right. So as you guys know, the prelim, we're going to tell you what kind of a state it is, who's the vested owner, our legal description. That's big what to do in there. The next thing we're going to talk about, of course, is the actual items that show up against the property. These are what currently exist on the property, and we're going to show you the taxes. We're going to show you the easements. We're going to show you the CC&Rs. Those will always be in there. The only thing that's where you're really going to get involved with at this point is where the liens are. So then, we're going to show you the mortgages that exist, the deed of trust. So you'll see that. One of the concerns you guys should really, when you see a deed of trust, is when you see this, and this trustee sale, because.
Well, I hate to do this, but let's back you up or something, because you're like gargled.
Am I gargle still?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the system or what, but I mean, hopefully it sounds better now. Does it sound better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So as I was saying, right here when we start getting into the liens is where you guys are going to really be concerned with. But on a deed of trust, your real big concern, if you see this, is when you see a notice of trustee sale. So we got to make sure that when we close, that this trustee's notice of sale has not taken place or is not about to take place when we're doing the closing. So that's real important. I know that you guys probably already know that, but when you see that, contact us. And if you have a date in there that actually shows after, or I should say before our closing, you may want to contact us to verify if it's been postponed. We'll contact the trustee to verify that. And we can't close until the trustee's sale has been postponed. Okay, so just know that. The next thing will show up as judgments. One of them is child support judgments. Those are big. They really don't have a running time, because they'll have these things going on until the child reaches the age of 25, or if they're still going to college or that type thing. So be mindful of that. If this shows up, we're going to want a release of that if we can immediately, and it should come from either the district attorney of that county or the actual individual directly. Okay, so keep that in mind. The next things that could show up that we really need to pay attention to are abstracts of judgments and federal and state tax liens. So these are the general index liens that will show up. So we're going to need a demand and a satisfaction to close that. To remove the judgment, we'll need a demand from the franchise tax board, and they'll send the release afterwards, and they'll say that. So we'll accept that from the franchise tax board, because we do trust the state. The next thing is the IRS lien. We'll need a demand from the IRS, and they'll say that they're going to send us the release as well too. Keep in mind, right now with the IRS, they are really backlogged with all the refunds and late filings that you need to start on them right away. I think Kevin Gibson and I had a transaction that it took them, I'd say, about 40 days to get the demand, or 20, I think it was 26 days, I apologize, to get the demand, but longer than normal. So keep that in mind, because we really can't hold money on an IRS lien in our title world, because the way the IRS works is they'll record one lien, but basically tell you, since we recorded one lien, there could be other liens. So they will go back and reassess every year other than that lien and show it in the demand. So that's why we don't hold money on IRS liens. Okay. So one of the things that didn't show up here that we wanted to talk about a lot was mechanic liens. Okay. Now mechanic liens, I want to stop this here because it's not on here and we didn't show that. So mechanic liens, it says your speaker is not working. Please check your correction on your use your different speaker. Can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay. I don't know what I was saying that for. It's working. Okay, I just didn't know why it said that. Okay, that was the first time I saw that. I apologize. So let's go on to mechanic liens. So I'm going to pull one up here. And I think there was some concern, everybody understanding mechanic liens and what they are and such forth. So here's a mechanic lien that recorded on the property, on another property here. So let me back up a little bit. Everybody know what a mechanic lien is? I mean, this means that someone's done work on the property or alleges they've done work on a property, and they're saying they haven't been paid, or they're trying to secure that they receive payment, and they know that you're an escrow type thing, so they'll try to get that in right away because they feel that they haven't been paid. Regardless, what we have to do is we have to pay it and get a release for it. But what comes along with the mechanic lien is now it's been put on notice to the title company that there's been work done recently. So now, all of a sudden, there may be other mechanic lien claimants that show up in this on this property and start filing mechanic liens. So what we have to do is we have to do an indemnity. I think you guys all probably gone through that with the various title companies, where we require that we have an indemnity from the seller to indemnify the title company that any of the liens that could possibly show up, that they're going to get paid. So basically what's going to happen here is when we see one mechanic lien, we're going to put down that there's could be others, and we're going to say that there's been work in progress. So now we're going to want to verify from the seller or the owner at the time that whatever work they've done, they've paid it already, or whatever work they've done that they're going to pay. And it's going to depend on their financial strength and an indemnity. Through that process, it will probably take us about 5 to 7 days to approve it, because we got to look at the scope of the work that was done, how much was cost, how much money does the indemnitor have. And sometimes a lot of these indemnitors don't have a ton of money, so they'll want us to rely on the sale of the property. The concern is that if they get their money and they walk away with the proceeds and don't pay the rest of the creditors, basically the title company is on the hook to clear those liens up. So really important that they have financial stability. That's why we ask for financials. I know a lot of the sellers get crazy about it, and they say, well, why am I giving you an indemnity if I have to show you my financials? Because we need to know if they can back the indemnity. So the other thing is, too, associated with the mechanic lien that could happen is a notice of action. So so what they're attempting to do, if a notice of action shows up on the property against the mechanic lien, what they're attempting to do is foreclose on the mechanic lien. So a mechanic lien can't foreclose on the property like a regular deed of trust. What they'll have to do is they'll have to go into a court and file to foreclose on the property. So once they file the action, now they can foreclose on the property. Now the mechanic lien claimant has a certain amount of time to file an action. So once they file their mechanic lien, they have to file their action within 90 days. So, and before it just had to be filed, now it has to be recorded. So once you see that, now we know that they really want to get paid and they're going to start foreclosing if not. So that means we have to get the court case dismissed or cleared, and then we have to pay the mechanic lien claimant. So not just an indemnity is going to cure that. We're going to need to have releases for that and make sure that we pay them. So when the mechanic lien shows up, that means there's been work on the property. So remember that. And a lot of times you'll see a notice of completion that we show on the property, and we say, okay, due to the notice of completion, there can be work to the property. And the reason we do that is because basically the notice of completion, when they record it, the mechanic lien claimants, that all the people, that individual, all the material man, all the people that worked on the property have 90 days to file a mechanic lien from the date of that notice of completion. So that puts the world in notice that, hey, now you have from this point on 90 days to go ahead and file a mechanic lien. So for us, if we're in that period, we have to actually make sure that the seller has taken care of all their all their material men, all the people who have worked on the property. So we're going to then do that process again of the indemnity, their financials, make sure that they're financially strong enough to back up their indemnity. So you'll see that, I mean, at times, and this is what we have to do to get beyond a mechanic lien and where there's work. You know, we can get into details of the laws, but, you know, typically you'll see a mechanic lien that will record, that's recorded in our property, in our report, and it's recorded like maybe 6 months ago. We'll show that because we don't know if the mechanic lien claimant and the owner has actually done some kind of agreement to pay later down the line, like when they sell the property. So we'll want to know that they've actually cured that mechanic lien, or they're going to cure that mechanic lien. So that's why we show that mechanic lien. Technically, the mechanic lien is only supposed to last for 90 days. But because there's variations to the law that allows them to go ahead and negotiate through the process, that mechanic lien can extend beyond that. So that's why we'll show that. We usually show them up to about a year, but that's a stretch. But that's why you'll see them even after 120 days, they're there, because we're verifying that, you know, there's no agreements, that has been paid. You know, they should have released it realistically, but they didn't. So, you know, we want to make certain of that. So,
And Bill,
yes.
when we open an escrow that's new construction that's maybe being completed while we're in escrow, you always require an indemnity agreement and financials, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, because we're still in that lien period. And what's even more dangerous about that is they haven't recorded the notice of completion yet. So they're smack dab in the middle of the 90 days period and hasn't even started realistically. So yes,
Right.
So that's even more important.
Right.
Anybody have any more questions with respect to the mechanic liens, or anything on a report that shows up that, you know, you may have had some you know, concerns, or have you know, some questions on how to get rid of that lien? No. I guess I did pretty well there. All right, well, then I'm going to go on to the next topic that is real. It's really only for LA County, but, you know, I know a lot of officers. Yes.
Do you want to talk about uninsured deeds and seller vesting?
I
And
apologize about that.
that's okay.
Yes. So I did. You know what? I'm sorry. I meant to talk about that. So I'm going to share the screen again. Sorry. So let me do that real quick again.
No worries. No worries.
So we talk about, you guys see uninsured deeds all the time that show up on our report. So there's different variations of uninsured deeds that happen. I should actually talk about reconveyances that recently recorded too, because that's it happens a lot now. In any event, so we'll just say right here, if you guys can see the report, you have Izzy 2 Sharp and Neva 2 Sharp, trustees of the 2 Sharp Family Trust. So if you see that all of a sudden Izzy by herself deeded to another individual, so that's an uninsured deed, and there hasn't been any insurance, we're going to call it an uninsured deed. So when we say it's uninsured, a title company hasn't actually been able to look at it and vet everything that's been involved in it. So they need to look at the trust, they need to look at what was involved in the conveyance. So now, whereas the title company have to actually clear that or verify that, because our guarantee to our buyer and our buyer's lender is that nobody's going to come back and say, hey, wait a minute, I still have an outstanding interest on the property. So if you see a deed when there's a trust involved, we're going to ask for the trust. You know, if someone's passed away, we're going to ask for a copy of the death certificate. We may even ask for an affidavit of death of trustees, because we have to put it of record to remove that person's interest. So we're going to have to clear their general indexes, because any liens against individuals that previously owned the property, we're insuring that as well against that. So that's the easiest concept when you see an uninsured deed. Okay. Now, say if Izzy Izzy and Neva were not in trust of their trust, and then all of a sudden Izzy deeded to Neva out of the blue. So we're going to want to again vet that deed because it's uninsured. Somebody hasn't looked at it. We don't know if there was a condition to it. Say there was a deed that says, okay, I'll transfer this to you with, when you go to sell it, you pay me back that money. So that's why we want the uninsured deed affidavit, because in there it says that they're not expecting any money or any monetary funds due back to them. So we want to make certain that they have cleared that matter and we don't have to deal with that person's interest again. Again, we have to go back and clear their general index, and we have to make certain that there's no lien against them individually, because any buyer and buyer's lender is going to be guaranteed in our policy of that matter. Okay, so that's for uninsured deeds. And don't forget it. What's complicated too is when individuals die that they're holding title individually, and it's uninsured, and it was recently done just before the passing of their death. We're going to have to vet that too to make certain that that's where the property was to intend to go to. Sometimes it will call for us to get a copy of the will to see that's where it went. But you know, it may require that other beneficiaries consent to it, or we may even ask for a probate. But that's the extreme if that happens in our transactions. Okay, so those are probably the most three popular transfers that we see often happen that are uninsured, and we need to clear those through the process. Okay. Now,
and Bill, you brought up reconveyances.
Yes, I'm going to talk about that right now. So one of the things that you'll see often too, I'm going down here, I apologize. You know, the screen's scrolling, you're going, what's going on? So say all of a sudden, we don't have any of these things here down here, and this shows up. But underneath this deed of trust, we show a recent reconveyance, just say it recorded in 2019. So it's not often that some people have that kind of money to pay off a loan before its term ends without a new transaction happening, like a sale of another property and they paid off the loan, or a refinance that maybe the deed of trust didn't get recorded appropriately and doesn't show on our property. So a couple of things we want to do is we want to vet the reconveyance. One, we want to make certain that anybody who's been paid, I mean, the lender who's been paid, they're going to verify that yes, they've been paid. So a lot of times you'll see we'll ask for a lender's paid in full letter. So we'll want that. Sometimes we'll take some proof of payment, like another escrow transaction, it paid off that loan and you had that demand. So we'll have to verify that. And all we're doing is vetting that payment was done right. You know, it's like someone says, well, you know, it's recorded the reconveyance, so it's good. Well, possibly. But what if it was supposed to be another deed of trust that paid it off? So we need to verify that. Or what if they paid off the wrong deed of trust, or they paid off another deed of trust and reconveyed the wrong deed of trust? So we need to vet that reconveyance, and we're going to ask for some things. We're going to want to see the paid in full letter. We want to make certain that the owner of the property didn't actually refinance, and this should have been another deed of trust showing up. So those are the kind of things we're going to vet, because we want to make certain that, you know, the reconveyance that got recorded was in fact intended to reconvey that one deed of trust, and there wasn't supposed to be another one. So like I said, nobody really has, I mean, you know, there are a ton of people that have the money to pay off deeds of trust, but it's not often. I mean, I would say maybe 1% of the world can pay off deed of trust out of the blue without letting the terms of the deed of trust go through. So that's our concern, and we want to verify that. So you'll see that often. You'll see the effect of the reconveyance. We're going to want to vet that. We're going to want your paid in full letter from the lender, if we can get that. That's the first step, and then we'll go through other criteria if we can. All righty. So that, I think that's trying to go through, not keeping Kevin too crazy with his Zoom after Zoom. I'm going to try to go speed through a little bit of the report at this point, and I'm going to stop share that. But I'll take, if anybody has any questions about the report or anything that shows up on the report and you're not certain why we asked for something, let me know right now if you want. And then I'm going to go on to one last topic, which is kind of really geared towards LA, but everybody does record in LA as well. So you might want to know about it a little bit. So just let me know if anybody, I'll give you about 10 seconds if you want to, anybody want to chime in. Yeah.
We also get up in, well, not in LA, everywhere, divorces.
Oh, yeah.
We also need that uninsured deed affidavit for the ex or what have you, and that's more so common. Is there other ways to clear that up, like the divorce decree, or what other would suffice, or would we have to get an uninsured deed affidavit?
That's a good question, because there is other avenues that we can work with that. So say a husband and wife got divorced, and that's why the uninsured deed showed up. So instead of, maybe there's some bad blood, they don't want to go back to the wife, they don't want to go back to the husband. It's like, I don't want to talk to that person anymore. So what we'll ask for is, maybe a copy of the divorce decree that shows the property was awarded to the individual who received the property. So once we get that, we can confirm the transfer as well. So that's an avenue that we do work with, and that's a good question mark. So that's a really good topic you brought up. So keep that in mind. We can accept someone's decree to verify that the transfer was legit and that it was intended to go to that spouse or ex-spouse at that point. Any other question? Good question, Mark. I'm glad you showed up.
You see that often.
I thought for sure you'd be asleep back there in your cabana.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Bridget actually has a question.
All right, on.
Well, that means I gotta ask it. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bridget. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not bad.
Okay. So, in regards to the uninsured grant,
Uninsured deed? Oh, I lost you. Where'd you go?
Oh, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Go ahead. Go ahead and hold it.
is it possible for someone to have two grant deeds, one that's been recorded so that their name will be on title, and then one that they haven't had recorded, and then they propose it or give it during a transaction that has title insurance?
I'm not sure I follow. So give me a scenario. So
A scenario, say for instance, Megan granted her property over to me, and instead of one grant deed, she signed two grant deeds, one that I had recorded immediately, and then I went to sell the property and had a second one and furnished that at the time of the sale.
well, that's not common, but
I've seen it before. That's why I'm asking.
yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it's not common, but I could see that happening. I mean, sometimes you get attorneys that get involved and they want to be extra careful, and they'll give you one original and they'll say this one records and you keep that for your records, that type thing. So it's not common, but we, of course, we're gonna have to vet it as well.
Of
We're
course.
gonna want to verify that the notary was legit and such forth. And hopefully the best thing is when it goes through a notary that we know. That's always the best thing. So we'd want to vet that, and we're gonna have to clear their general index liens as well. But
Okay.
that instance is not common at all.
Okay.
But it's a good question.
The Palisades comes up with good questions. Yeah.
Wait, I don't know. Oh, would the person have to then still
Oh.
sign something? That was
Yeah,
my
he's
question.
saying it would have to be vetted.
Okay.
So in any event, like Kevin, you care to comment about that IRS lien, how long it took you to get a release for?
Well, Bill, what you didn't, it took me about 26 days to type up the demand
Oh.
from the IRS. No, it was about 20, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks it took us. to get
Okay,
it.
see, I knew it was about 40 days, right? It was
Yeah.
somewhere around there. So just keep
Got
that in
another guy
mind.
that's trying to get some released on his own, but I don't know how he's doing with that, so.
Yeah, just keep that in mind, everybody. So if you have an IRS lien show up on your prelim, probably want to tackle that right away because they're extremely behind. And title companies, including ourselves, don't typically hold money on that because of that factor that the IRS, they'll record 1 year and they'll say, hey, we put everybody on notice. There could be other years involved. So just keep that in mind.
No, that's why we try to make sure that they order these frickin' prelims when they get the listing.
Yeah, yeah.
No surprises, right,
But
Mark?
sometimes those liens won't show up if you have a name like mine, William Thomas.
I
And,
know.
There's like a million William Thomases in this, in this county, and So, that's when you need the GI, I should say the statement of information to clear the GI. So that may not work in that instance as well if that person's name is real common.
But what about the SI?
Well, when we get it, I mean, typically we don't get that up front when they do the listing. They don't get it till you guys go into escrow.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. So anybody else have any more questions with respect to any title matters that would possibly pop up? All right, on. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about an instance that's happening down in LA County Recorder. And we kind of talked about it in last week's Zoom meeting. We did one for LA. And some of the concern is because LA County Recorder only allows you to record one time in LA, and that's 8 a.m. So you have to submit the document the night before, and the document virtually has to be perfect to pass through because they're not allowing for corrections. So if the document isn't rejected before 8:45 a.m., we cannot resubmit it. It has to go the following day. So then you lose a day, and then we have to deal with either gaps or just not record it on, or not confirm it at all, and record the following day, and process the recording or the closing until the following day.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Does every county make these corrections?
Every other county allows corrections. Of course, there's time periods. Like San Bernardino, you submit for an 8 a.m. has to be resubmitted before 11 a.m. But then you could resubmit after 11 a.m. up to 2 p.m. Orange County all day long until I think 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Right.
San Diego, think same thing. Did someone say something? Oh, San Diego, the same thing. It's they have all day until about 3 p.m. So even Ventura, they have allowed corrections, but only up until 1 p.m.
And these are corrections that are happening unbeknownst to us. You guys just take care of it between you and the service.
That's correct. So I mean, minor, corrections. Somebody didn't put the city right in the legal description, or it didn't match in the documentary transfer stamp area, the city. So those kind of minor corrections, they're pulling it. If the PCOR didn't match the sales price, they'll pull that and want to correct it. So all these minor corrections, they're pulling it and not allowing you to correct it unless you do it, resubmit it before 8:45 a.m. So there was hopes that the county recorder in LA was going to allow us to do it, actually have a portal, or the 8 a.m. portal, open till 11 a.m. Yesterday, we just got word from the LA County Recorder that they shot that idea down. They said, it's not right now, because they are at 65% capacity with the recorder people, because 35% of them are home due to COVID conditions. Either they're unable to come to work because of their age group, or they have underlying health issues where they could be susceptible to COVID-19. So just want to let everybody know that one. So we're going to have to be perfect on that when you do a recording in LA. Okay?
Do you think this is going to happen in other counties, or this is just LA?
No, just LA. In fact, there was hopes that LA was going to go to a format where other counties are, where they set up the recording to record 8 a.m. If it got pulled for a correction, they allowed them to do the correction. They just resubmit and record that same day later on. Well, the county recorder hasn't been able to do that because they're so backlogged on their daily logs that they're not allowing us to do that.
So in LA, if we don't make the correction by 8:45 a.m., it cannot record that day, has to bump to the next day.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
I know. Challenging.
Yeah.
Bill, unless you're doing the gap insurance, which we actually have on one.
Yeah, we would do that. We'll offer that if you're ready to do that. Do a gap insurance. Of course, if there's construction that was involved, the construction loan, we probably won't be able to do that. So just keep that in mind. So if we're doing a purchase money with a construction component to it, we're gonna have a problem with that one. Then we'll have to wait. But other transactions, regular transactions, we're doing the gap. We're gonna let you know that, hey, this happened. Are you guys okay with us doing the gap closing? All right. All right. Okay, guys. I mean, I don't know if you have any more questions. I thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us and, talk about some of the title matters that hopefully you understand what we're looking for, and maybe it makes it easier for you guys. And if you guys ever have any questions, reach out to me or reach out to your title officer. Big thing on that, Ron, ask any your sales rep or your title officer if you guys can have that flyer. It's a really big thing. I think eventually it's going to kick in. I'd say the third, fourth quarter is really going to kick in.
Hey, Bill, I
Mark
have a
said
question.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, here in San Diego, is there a certain price point that requires an inspection on the titles part?
Yes. We at $3 million will start inspecting the property, because that's considered high life for us. The thing is if we see any kind of mechanic liens or anything that possibly would have triggered a mechanic lien, say we got a property that just sold a year ago for $300,000, all of a sudden it's selling for $1 million, that's going to trigger us to look at it and see that there's possible work. So we'll inspect it as well. But price point is $3 million.
3 million and higher, and then you only inspect the outside, correct?
That's correct. We're inspecting the boundaries and the outside of the property.
And so you actually don't need the seller to be home?
No, we don't.
Okay, and is there a charge for that every single time?
Typically, we do charge for that because it is part of our coverage, because we're giving off record coverage to buyers, and so we do charge for that.
Okay.
And what are the limits in LA and Orange County for inspection?
Same.
3 million? Okay.
3 million. But like I said, other things can trigger it, but typically it's 3 million.
So when you open the order and they see that the price is 3 million or higher, wouldn't that trigger it right away?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Do we need to beat up Dave?
No.
I can feel something coming on.
No.
Just want to make sure.
No.
Right on.
Anybody
Have you
else
heard
have
from
a
Chuck?
question? Oh, sorry, Karen.
That's okay. It's kind of personal. Have you heard from Chuck Bishop?
Chuck.
Yes. I do. Every day, just about. He's working from home right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody told you that he's retiring in June 1st?
No, but I'm glad to hear that.
He is retiring June 1st. He's decided to call it this COVID, I think, pushed him over the top, and he decided he's going to retire on June 1st.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
About time.
I want to retire.
Mark, I'm going to hear you. That's why, Karen, you see me a lot more involved, because because I'm more part of it. Dave, you'll see me often in the email.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. So
it's all good.
If you talk to him or whatever, be a good thing to say hi to him.
Hey, Bill, huge thank you for doing this for us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for showing up.
Thanks, Hefe.
I know you guys are all busy, so I appreciate that.
Any last questions before we sign out? Anybody?
Everybody except Megan.
Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Hefe.
Thank you.
Okay, bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye.
You're the man.
Bye.
Muchas gracias, jefe, que la vea bien.
Igualmente.
Adios.
Adios.
Adios, Mark.
Adios con
Bye,
Dios.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Alicia's book.